Welcome to the Career Chat Show with me, Yanmo. On today's show, I have a very special guest. Now, listen, I'm very excited for this one because I have with me on the couch today the none other than Sandra Powers. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, Yanmo, my darling. Good to see you. Good to be here. Hello.
So lovely to have you here.
Same
Now,
here.
Sandra has decades of workplace experience, especially within the program management space. She has worked for every single organization on the FTSE 100, and that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I say that because I want you to understand that this lady is a connoisseur of workplace and she has excelled at her game, and she is here to share some of her nuggets, what she has done with us. So without taking up too much of your time, Sandra, welcome.
Thank you once again. Thank you so much for having
No,
me.
you're absolutely welcome. And I always enjoy our conversations. But I want to just delve in very, very quickly because I personally have seen your CV, and your CV is impressive. Impressive. And we're not going to go through your CV today, but I want to talk about something that plagues a lot of women of color in the workplace. And I'm not saying it doesn't plague other people, but particularly women of color, and that's imposter syndrome.
Indeed.
Imposter syndrome. Now, I have my take on it, but I really want to get your take on it. Is this
Sure.
something that you agree with? Is this something that you have experienced? And first of all, what's your take on imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome. I have been in tech for 24 years. And I can tell you now, if you had asked me this question many more years back, perhaps the answer would have been different. So
Different in
as I
what way?
stand, according to my stature in the domain, tech, I will tell you that imposter syndrome it's something that you see less of to an
Right.
extent when you are up the ladder.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It still does. And I'm happy to give you recent examples as well. But you know something, if should be told, it used to be when my career was far younger
Right.
that I witnessed it a lot more, perhaps
Okay.
more overtly,
Right.
more, overtly
Yeah.
than covertly. These days, I guess more internally than
Right.
explicitly.
Yeah.
But saying so, the feelings that come out of it are not any less hurtful. So earlier on in my career, certainly as a woman of color,
Yes.
black woman, doesn't matter that I have a British passport. If you're black, you're black. You can't lie your way
That's
through it.
right. Your color is your color.
It doesn't matter how anglicized your name is. When you turn up on the door, when you speak, they know.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about imposter syndrome, it arises from a number of factors, one of which is called cultural.
Right.
From a cultural perspective, of course, by the time in tech, there are not a lot of us.
That's
There are
right.
not a lot of black people. There are not a lot of women. Not a lot of black women.
Women of
It,
color.
it
Yeah.
begins to
Yes.
the stats
It
begin to
narrows down.
narrows
Yeah.
down more
Yeah.
and more when you begin to run several filters through it. What I have always had is I walk into an environment. It's not the first time, it wouldn't be the last time where I'm the only black person in an establishment, or the only black person on a floor,
Yeah.
or the only black woman, or the only
Yeah.
woman
Yeah.
in a male dominated team. My life in tech started from the trenches. And when you are in the trenches, you're there with the developers, shop floor, frontline
Doing it.
development,
Yeah. Doing the
uh, you
work.
know, uh, they can only allow you to be the girl in the group for so long. When you've got to deliver, you've got to deliver. It's a very
100%.
delivery based
Yes.
environment. You can't
100%.
run, you can't hide. Your eyelashes cannot bat your way out of trouble for you. You deliver.
That's right.
And so, what worked for me, and I remember when I worked for Ford many moons ago in Dunstan, in Essex. Let me tell you the extent to which imposter syndrome. I think I remember that experience very well for good reasons.
Yeah.
When Ford erected that building in the 50s, it was so male dominated there was not even a female toilet on that floor,
Oh wow.
or even in the building, no female toilets. In the fullness of time, when ladies came into the organization, then eventually we had one toilet on
Yeah.
every other floor,
Yeah.
type of thing. And I remember when it was told me that there was not female toilets in this building. I
What
thought,
did you
what?
do? What did you do?
Thankfully, by the time I had gotten there were toilets on every other floor,
Yeah.
alternate flooring.
Yeah.
But that's to tell you the extent to which women even had to fight their ways through
In that industry.
in that domain, in that
Yes.
space.
Yeah.
And when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's only a phenomena that came about in the 1970s
Correct.
when certain studies and observations were made of high performing women. So what happened to the women before the 70s? Do we say that the imposter syndrome did not happen? Because after all, when did women start going into places of work? So it's a recent phenomenon, rather relatively so, for women of color as well, especially when you're in a high performing job
Yeah.
that's already cutthroat enough.
That
How
it
do you
does.
survive it?
Yeah.
You will get it, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. I remember many years ago, I went on an assertiveness course, and it was an American lady. I forget her name now, but it was one of these courses. I was really getting the courses in, and I was feeling okay. Let's tap
I've
over
never heard of
a
that
few
before. An
skills.
assertiveness
Assertiveness course,
course.
absolutely,
Wow.
because I knew I needed it.
Yes.
Very male-dominated field. You know, there was a time when in my 20s, all around me were guys in their 50s. One of them actually came out and said, Sandra, and because you're judged on the basis of your delivery,
Yes.
and these guys would sit down and ruminate about the problem and ruminate about the problem and take God knows how long to do it. But they give the same problem to you, and within the space of 2-3 days,
You've come up with
you've
a
flipped it,
solution. Yeah.
you've done it,
Yeah.
you've documented it. I did this thing once, twice, 3 times. Dave, I remember him, came to me in Norwich. In Yeah, that was in Norwich. Yeah, that experience with Aviva. Came to me and said, Sandra, how do you do this? How are you able to do this as quickly as you are able to do it? So you know what? What always got me out of that, out of the mess and the quagmire and the sadness and pain of imposter syndrome, my skills, the grace of God, being able to deliver.
So when you say your
Yeah.
skills and the grace of God,
Yeah.
are you actually saying that imposter syndrome is a real thing?
It's a real thing, absolutely.
thing.
It's a real thing, and as a woman in tech, I would say it's something that you find when you're still trying to claw your way up the ladder, perhaps more so than when you're at the upper echelons of management and
Yes.
C-suite.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. My God.
No, I agree
You
with
know,
you.
there are big boy games and big girl games that take
100%.
place at staircodes and C-suite
100%.
meetings.
Yes,
That still takes place.
100%. But
Yeah.
because you said it's a very recent thing, or name has been given to it. Very
Eventually,
recently.
name has been given
Right.
to it.
Eventually, name has been given
It's
to
not.
it.
It's not still diagnosed. When you go to a counselor or
Which
to a
is where I was going to, right?
It's not. They don't give you medication for it.
Right.
They don't even diagnose it. It takes somebody who is in the know to actually cut through the mess and say,
Okay, so medically,
medically,
it's
you
not,
can't. It's
not
not
a thing.
undiagnosable.
It's not a thing medically, right? If that's the case, and I know that there are many things that are still not under the medical radar,
Indeed.
I appreciate that, right? But the reason I say I have a very different viewpoint to imposter syndrome is it's a term that gets bounced a lot. And
does.
even like you say, even people that are at the peak of their careers, they will tell you, oh yes, I struggle with imposter syndrome, this, that, and the other. But what exactly is imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, it's when somebody believes themselves to be a fraud, when somebody believes themselves not to be worthy of the position that they find themselves in, either elected into office or nominated into office or employed into that position.
Yeah.
I can give you several examples now, happy to do so. So an example, somebody who perhaps an immigrant has come into the United Kingdom, an immigrant that remembers, let's say, I mean, I'm Igbo. When I think back to Igbo land, I remember the red earth, of Imo State. I remember that soil well. You think of the green, black, broad leaves of the tropical Africa, And then you come here.
No soil.
You're working on the 30th floor. Lunch is just at the press of a button.
Yes.
There's no firewood somewhere.
You're taking us back. You're taking us back.
Do you know what I mean? So what I mean is, I was born here. I have a British passport, but my memories of what my background, my ancestral background is, my cultural background is, there are times when within me I say, my God. And when you do tell people the kind of place you work in, they will always almost call you a liar for it because how can you work in that kind of place?
Yeah.
But you
You
do work in
do.
that kind of
You
place.
do.
Imposter syndrome from a cultural point of view. More and more, again, I speak perhaps more authoritatively about tech than anything else.
Yes.
Once upon a time, when you entered into the tech industry, into any tech department, you would see nine white men and
Yeah.
then one Indian.
Yes. Yeah. Very true.
In the fullness of time, that dynamics has shifted
Yeah.
to mean that you'll
There's more
see
diversity.
five
Yeah.
white men and then four Indians and then
And
one
one black.
black. And then the
And the
one
one
black will
black.
tend to be Nigerian.
Yes.
These days, I would even dare to suggest to you that the stats, uh, you'd see three, four whites, you would see about four, five Indians,
But
and
interest.
the rest blacks.
Yeah, but interesting. You now talk about the stats. So would you say
Yeah.
it's the imposter syndrome that is making the stats look like that? Because the reason I say this is there are very talented people out there,
Extremely.
right? I know Nigerians are talented people. We hustle. We know what to
To
do.
our credit.
To our credit, right?
And that is what has actually saved us.
Right.
We're a
Right.
cut above the rest, period.
Right.
You know, yeah.
And we can read. The people that can read can
And
read.
we come superbly degreed up.
Exactly,
We
right?
come booked up.
Right.
You
So
know?
if that's the case,
Yes.
where does imposter syndrome now have its place in all of these things? So you've gone to the Harvards, you've gone to the Yales, you've got, you have your first degree, your second degree, your master's, your PhD, all of these things. You even have the tech qualifications because sometimes it's not the university degrees that give you
Yeah,
the tech
yeah, yeah.
qualifications. So I'm very, very intrigued to
Yeah.
know in all of this, why then would you feel, because you've given us the definition of imposter syndrome, which is the right definition according to the people that have defined it, why then would you feel that you're undeserving of a position that you have the talent for, the credibility for, and all of that?
A lot of it is mental wiring.
Talk to me about that.
A lot of the time, people, it's that feeling of unworthiness again. I'm not good enough to be here. What am I doing here? Do I belong here? Whether we like it or not, especially in tech, especially as you go up the higher echelons, there is an old boys network. They
Very
may tell
true.
you that it's not there,
Yeah,
but it
it's
is
there.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
I work a lot in the city for insurance companies and banks. Oh, it's very old boys network,
Yeah.
where you don't need to submit your CV before you go for jobs. It's on the basis
100%.
you get your job on the
Based on
basis of
recommendation.
who has bought you a pint in the pub.
Networking.
You know, networking is everything. Again, as we say.
Yes.
So certainly that old boys network, the fact that you know that no matter how good you are, there's always the possibility of somebody gazumping you because, oh, Dave had a word or Kevin had a word. Whether we like it or not, it still happens.
Right.
There is
But if you're
a lot of the
gazumped-
times as well, you put your CV in, you want to go for all these big positions, you're qualified.
Yeah.
You know that, overqualified, in fact. Sometimes they just put the job out there because you just want to make up the numbers.
That's
They actually
right.
have somebody internally that they want to fill
Yes.
that position.
I agree with you. But when you now get the job,
Yeah.
why then would you still have that imposter syndrome?
Again, a lot of it is personal wiring, cognitive wiring, personal wiring, mental wiring. Some people, give you an example again, the way maybe they speak with an accent.
Yes.
And when you're working with people who come with clipped accents from Oxford and from Cambridge and Harvard,
But still an accent.
but it's still an accent. But
Still an accent.
but it's you can only ever speak for your wiring. You don't know what the physiology, what the
Of that
psychology
individual.
of the other person is, and for that reason, there's always, you don't know what they're going to be susceptible to.
I agree with
you know.
Okay.
Sometimes as well, and the paradox about imposter syndrome is also this: imposter syndrome doesn't actually happen with those people who are not high performing. It's actually a phenomenon that's quite
Associated
that
with high
finds
performance.
its place, its natural home
With high
and
performance,
habitation
yes.
with high performing people,
That's right.
trailblazers,
Yes, yes,
line crossers,
yes.
barrier breakers,
Yes.
visioners, people that have started something or people that have paved the way. Whether
That
you like
is
it or not,
interesting.
whether you like it or not, these are also humans that have days when they wonder, am I good enough? Give you an example.
We have
J
those
Lo,
days.
after 70 million albums sold, still wonders whether, am I still good enough for this? Because when Jenny from the Block came out, people always thought, what's she doing singing like that? She's Latino Jenny. But after 70 million albums sold, she was still questioning
So her
herself.
mental wiring.
Maya Angelou, the Maya Angelou, after her 12th book, still said, I was still wondering whether they would find out if I actually don't think I'm good enough. Maya Angelou. Albert Einstein used to feel like a professional fraud. He felt, he has explicitly said it, he did when he was alive, that he didn't think he was good enough. This is Albert Einstein. Meryl
Hi.
Streep, Jodie Foster,
So it's
Academy Award winning.
So it's really with high performance.
It's high performance. And you see, but one of the problems is also because people spend more time beating themselves up than praising themselves. People are like Oprah. Oprah will tell you, okay, once upon a time she said, I get sackfuls of mail, she said. And of all those sackfuls of mail in her heydays, of all those sackfuls of mails, could be 1,000 mails. And 990 tell me I'm good, I'm this,
But the
I'm
one
that.
that says,
But I'm always looking for the one that tells me I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not that. Why was she obsessed about looking for who was calling her an
wiring.
imposter? Why was her vision not more aligned to the 900 and something emails or letters that came through to say, well done, you're a shining star? You see, when I talk about wiring, we must begin to wire ourselves.
Yes, I hear you, and I'm on board with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, what then do we do to change the wiring or rewire the mind? Because if it's mental, it's definitely the mind.
It's
Right?
definitely the mind.
And I know that we have loads of conversations with ourselves more than we have with any other person.
Yeah.
Right? I definitely have had moments where I've thought to myself, how did you get here and what are you doing here? Right? Which is
Indeed,
right.
indeed.
However, and I think I didn't give it language, which is what you've just given it, mental wiring. However, I'm particularly good at rewiring that whole conversation and that whole narrative. So how did you get here? Because you deserve to be here.
Because at least you've rewired. At least you've gotten to that place. A lot of people
So it's
haven't.
awareness.
And this is why we also say, don't have an ostrich in the head or ostrich in head in the sand mentality.
Yeah.
From time to time, take your head out, scan, see what's on around your scape, your professional scape.
Yeah.
Where am I going career-wise? Take stock. Don't think that job is a be all and end all. If anything happened to you today, the company moves on.
Can we just pause for a moment? Please
Indeed.
say it again. Don't think that job is
don't think that job
that
is
needs to be said
the only
again.
one that God has for you, or
Right.
the only one that you're good enough for,
Yes.
or the only one that you will ever find in this life.
Yes. There's
For
so many
every shining new
organizations.
penny you found, there's several more pennies you haven't found. And you know the thing with imposter syndrome, people actually, they want to hide their failures. They want to come out as perfect. They don't want anybody to know that, I don't have confidence doing this thing. Or they think that the only ones. Actually, these days when you go for any tech job, they will see your CV. But better than seeing your CV, they want to have a conversation with you.
They want to see you.
They want to see you. They want to hear you. They want to talk about what worked and what didn't work, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
And when it comes to the ugly, how did you learn from that? Because it's dangerous to get a person on board who has never made any mistakes.
That's very true.
So it's actually to your advantage
That you've made some mistakes.
Yes. You've owned it.
Yes.
You've learned from it.
Yes.
You're a coach. You give people that methodology. SWOT analysis, your strength, your weakness, your opportunities, and your threat. You find out, what you're weak. Part of arranging yourself before you go for an interview means you must have some narratives that explain and make it clear. Hey, listen, I'm good. I'm not perfect.
And I'm willing to learn.
And I'm willing to learn.
Yes. And I'm willing to.
And that in itself is an endearing quality. If you go to an interview, no matter how, 24 years as I am in the business, I go for an interview today. Yes, I am good, but I will also let you know in this instance, I could have done this better. I could have done that better.
Yes.
They all, employers and future prospective partners, they want to know what didn't work and what did you learn from it.
Yes.
If you begin to come across as somebody who is infallible, who doesn't make mistakes, then you begin truly to look like the fraud.
And what you've just described right there is part of the, first of all, awareness, but more importantly, the rewiring that is required.
Key, and this is where mentors and coaches are necessary.
Say it again.
Yeah, mentors and coaches are
Thank
necessary.
you very
You know,
much.
it's not a one-man band. It's, I mean, being working in tech, I have to deal with a lot of integration partners. I'm dealing with somebody from ELN,
Yeah.
from Eloquent, from
Yeah.
Iris, from AADS, from partner organizations, from vendor organizations. There's from developer staff, from QA staff, from business analysts, from product owners and product managers. People have different skills in different things, and you have to give kudos, give credit where it's due.
Yes.
You know, when somebody comes across, or you know somebody to be a career coach, or you know somebody to be a career strategist, such as you are, it is a label that is well worn and very much deserved. But for career strategists, high performing people will just carry on, go ahead, doing what they're doing, head in the sand.
Yes,
We're performing, we're delivering
yeah,
projects,
and
we're
hit a
delivering
brick wall.
programs, we're delivering portfolios. But hey ho, there you go. You're making your £600 a day when you could actually be making £3,000 a day. Simply because you've not taken your head out of that sand and scanned and say, hang
That's
on,
right.
I'm worth it. I'm valuable. I'm more than this. And that's another thing. People need to realize when they're being cheated in the workplace. Just because they're paying you doesn't mean to say they're not cheating you.
Let's even have a whole conversation about that, because I
You
believe
know?
that imposter syndrome actually lends itself to exactly this, right?
To financial abuse, to
Right.
financial undermining. Honestly, that's what it is. When you're worth,
But the thing is that you're worse, but you don't know you're worse. And maybe it's part of the imposter syndrome
Yeah.
that is not helping you realize
yeah.
that you're worth a lot more. Now, Ford came out with a study
Yeah.
that said that if anyone stays in an organization for more than 2 years, you wouldn't earn the same amount of money that your peer or your colleague that left the organization and went to a new organization, because that person that has left will earn 15-20K more. But your
Indeed.
organization will never ever,
Of course, they would never volunteer that information.
nor would they give you a pay rise of up to 15-20K.
No, they would not.
Right? So
They would
to your
not.
point, yeah,
Yeah.
there's financial abuse, but I believe when imposter syndrome tells you that you're not valuable, you believe you're not valuable. So you think to yourself, well, let me just get the job done. After all, I get on with my boss, I get on with my colleagues.
That's
I'm
it,
doing
yeah.
I'm doing the job.
I'm keeping the wolves away from the door. I'm all right.
Right. You know,
I'm all
but,
right.
but the
yeah.
thing is that you walk in wolf territory and it's dog eat dog.
It is.
Right?
Well, absolutely.
So, but if you don't know that you're valuable enough and you are worth a lot more from a remuneration point of view.
From a remuneration point of view, absolutely.
Then you're really giving imposter syndrome an opportunity to sit on the couch with you.
And have a cup of tea.
And have a cup
with cookies and biscuits.
No, because
can I be open?
No, 100%. 100%.
There was a little conversation we had a few weeks ago. There was person X who is wearing 4 hats.
Yes.
In an organization.
Yes.
4 hats, but he's getting paid for one person's role.
Yes.
So person X is getting pats on the back and getting, oh, well done,
Yes.
well done.
Yeah.
But pay me now. Cough up the money.
Yes.
Let us know. And it took talking with you for the glaucomas, the career glaucomas, to be lifted. And the aha moment to come.
Yeah.
So the more high performing you go, the more you certainly need, to be in partnership with coaches, mentors, teachers, handholders, support systems, networkers, such as the career chat show host here, my wonderful Yanmo. And I say that because I actually see it as otherwise it's financial fraud to self. You're committing.
Yes. And you're sabotaging your future.
It's self-sabotage.
Yes, you're sabotaging your future. And and to your point, I really believe that because imposter syndrome is it's a word, but it's a huge umbrella.
It is.
And there are different branches and facets to
They
it.
are,
right?
there are,
Now, I often say this, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So you say, the glaucoma needs to come off, the skills need to come off, but you don't know what you don't know.
True.
And, and if you don't know what you don't know, you don't even know that you're in a situation that you don't know that you're in a situation.
Exactly.
So how does person X, wearing 4 hats, but getting paid 1, and the pat on the back has sufficed for a long time?
For a long time. And out of being a Christian and being a born-again child of God, you're okay with it.
Right.
It's cold out there. You have to
Let's
be much more than okay with
let's
it.
even go there, right?
Yes.
Being a Christian does not mean that you're an enlightened individual,
I absolutely concur.
right?
Yes.
So therefore, my people are perishing for lack of knowledge,
For lack of knowledge.
right? And this
Yes.
knowledge isn't maths and English.
It's not math and
Right,
English.
it's financial literacy, it's career literacy,
It's career
all these
literacy.
right, it's all
That's
these different
it.
things that we're talking
Absolutely,
about.
absolutely.
So I believe that many Christians or believers, listen, you can pray in the spirit all you want. If you don't know what you don't know, you still don't know what you don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a pastor, but this is my career coach. I rest my case. I am a pastor, but this is my career coach.
Bless
I
you.
know Bible, but I need to be career literate.
You know,
This is my career mentor.
bless you.
That is that. Yes.
You know, so and the thing is that unfortunately we are in wolf territory.
We are in wolf
Right,
territory. We
Jesus
need to
Christ said,
negotiate.
yes.
We need to be aware of our
Yes.
surroundings. We need to smell blood.
Right.
We need to know when it's not our blood, other people are smelling.
Right, and ready
You know,
to pounce
and ready
on
to
us.
pounce on
Right.
you.
And
Absolutely.
this is
Yeah.
what Jesus said, you
Yeah.
know, I send you out as
Yeah.
sheep amongst
The
wolves.
wolves.
So we walk in wolf territory.
Absolutely.
Therefore, be as wise as a serpent. So you need the wisdom of the serpent in order for you to
wisdom.
thrive.
The
Now,
wisdom.
we're talking about imposter syndrome, but this is going into other areas because when we see our counterparts, right, be it a female Caucasian or a male Caucasian, I have been in situations where I have observed them, and a lot of the things I have done, I have learned or achieved, is really through observation.
Oh, observation.
yes,
You learn more with
You
non-verbal.
learn more, yes, when you're non-verbal,
Yeah.
and people don't realize it's a form of communication.
It is.
Right?
It is.
But the
I
thing,
do it all the time.
It's
You sit
important.
next to me at work. I feel sorry for you.
No, but it's really-
I'll type you.
no, but Sandra,
You will
it's
just
really,
hear
it's really,
ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta.
it's really important.
If you're not a strong person, it can shake your
No,
core.
it can shake you. But
And
the reason I was saying
Non-verbals.
that is, non-verbals. But the reason I was saying that was because, that if you find yourself in a high-performing environment
Yes.
and you're a Christian,
Yes.
but you don't know what you don't know, you're still
Yes.
going to be disadvantaged.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example.
Yes.
So, I've worked in teams that have Black people,
Yes.
right? And I would say, okay, let's all go out for a curry. You know, the director is Caucasian. You also have Caucasian people on the team. Let's go out for a curry or whatever. And most of the Black people will say, I'm off to church. You know, it's night vigil. It's this, that, and the other. And I'm looking at them thinking, so you think me, I don't want to go to night vigil. But there is something that I know. When it comes to your contract renewal, when it comes to promotion,
They look at
I
all of
will
those.
get it
Of
because
course.
I have decided to go out for a meal with my team,
Of course.
with my bosses,
Of course.
drink Coke or
Of course.
water.
You are not obligated to drink alcohol, and that's the thing.
Right. So, but the
You
point
know,
I'm
yeah.
making is that, but this is all part of career literacy.
It
If you're
is.
going to
It
advance in
absolutely
your
is,
career,
yeah.
And then when imposter syndrome starts to set in, you know that, hang on, I sat down with John the other day. We had a lovely conversation. So what am I scared of? This is where the rewiring comes in.
Yeah, yeah,
Does that make
absolutely.
sense?
It makes perfect sense, little things, when they're going out to the restaurant.
Make the
I'm not
effort.
afraid to say it, even going out to the pub. I go to the pub,
But why won't you
but
go
not
to
to
the
drink
pub?
alcohol.
No, but why won't you go to the pub?
We go to socialize, and that's where the deals are done.
I
That's
come
where
from
the
Nigeria.
conversations are had.
In Nigeria, there's a place called
Yeah.
Bookers. People go to the Bookers. People go
Absolutely.
to right. It's just a different culture. In this culture,
That's
where
it.
they
That's
drink,
it.
where they socialize, is called
That's it.
a pub.
That's it.
Right? It doesn't mean that you have to drink alcohol. And to be honest with you, your boss doesn't care whether you drink alcohol or not.
Or not. Yeah. It's the fact that you came out, you came
Says
to
a lot.
it says a lot.
Says
It
a
says a
lot,
lot.
yeah.
Christmas, I mean, this is the month of what? September now.
Yes.
We're in Q4. Christmas is just in a couple of months' time, where we'll start office
Christmas
parties,
parties,
Christmas
office
parties,
parties.
and then Santa, those Santa surprises.
Yes, yeah, Secret Santa.
Secret Santa.
Santas, yeah.
Oh dear God. God help you when they come to do Secret Santa and you say you don't want to be part of Secret Santa. They'll say, all right, okay.
They've clocked
But
you.
mentally, they've clocked you, they've marked you
Yeah,
down.
they've clocked you.
So when they start sifting,
Yes.
well, who is more
Yes.
likely to go here?
Yes, yes,
By your not
yes.
engaging and
Yeah.
opening up to those cultural norms, you've ruled yourself out of contention. Self-sabotage.
Self sabotage. And I believe, what you're saying about the rewiring. I believe that when you start to engage in such things, emotional intelligence, learning through observation and being a people watcher,
Yeah,
being in
absolutely.
meetings that you have no business being, but your boss says, you know what, come into this meeting with me, and you sit down there, you observe how they speak and what they say and how they, all of these different things. I really believe that helps a lot
It
towards the
does.
whole imposter syndrome thing.
It absolutely
Yeah.
does.
Okay.
Read books, get your certifications.
Yes.
Don't be a fellow who is addicted to being stagnant, because no matter where you are in that organization, even if you're C-suite, there's always another level.
Yes.
Seek to
Yes.
be a thought leader.
Yes.
Your LinkedIn alone, I had no idea that the developers under me in my program, they were avid watchers of my page, until
Wow.
one or two of them came and said, wow, you're the most certificated person I know. Little, there's different ways of sending signals when you
Yes.
do the retrospective,
Yes.
and they want to give everybody the opportunity to speak. My background is military, Air Force primary school, secondary school, Ikeja. When it's time to introduce, you can put feelers out there. When it's time to introduce yourself, I introduce myself as, what else do I do aside from work?
Yeah.
I write. I've written 18 books. Oh, I'm a pastor. I preach. Oh, by the way, my background is military. So they don't quite know where to put
That's
you.
right. That's right.
So never make yourself an enigma for good reasons, not for bad reasons. Let it be known. There's no employee as dangerous as one who is self-improving. When you go to somebody's
Say that
LinkedIn,
again.
there's no employee or colleague as dangerous
as
as
someone.
somebody who is actively self-developing and self-improving, either by going on courses or by having mentors. Somebody somewhere is opening your eye to something.
Yes.
Is unmasking possibilities for you.
Yes. That's so important. And
That is crucial.
I'm a huge advocate of personal development.
Oh, yes.
And in all of my career, I worked as a contractor. And the cost of a contractor, you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
But I was extremely intentional about taking
Yes,
one of my
that
favorite
is
words.
it.
Yes. I was very intentional about every 6 months, I would take time off, right? In contract, meaning that it was easy for me to say, oh, let me wait until I'm in between contracts, right? But that's not being intentional. Being intentional is saying that I am in contract, I am going to take this week off, and I'm going to spend £1,000, £2,000, however much this thing is, and I'm going to develop myself.
Absolutely.
And many people also feel that it has to be just technical skills. I've done courses on counseling. That's where I learned about cognitive behavior.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, this is a thing. Presenting with presence,
negotiating, assertiveness.
Right? In this day and age,
Yes.
AI.
Oh, dear God. Yes.
Right? So, but every single thing that you're saying is helping me realize that even though imposter syndrome is real,
it is very real.
Right?
Absolutely.
To the person that wants it to be real, right? Even though imposter syndrome is real, there are things that you can do to help.
There are levers you can pull.
Yes, I
like driving
levers.
A car.
Yes.
Gear 1, gear 2. There are levers you can pull.
We don't do gear 1, gear 2s anymore. It's all automatics.
Oh, darling, okay, all right. I do like the crunch of the engine and the throttle going out. Sometimes I still like my manual engines.
It's all automatic now, my darling. No, but I completely agree with you, and I think
there are levers you can pull. There are options available to you.
Yes.
And never get yourself in a situation whereby if you hear, the murmurings of, oh, there's a possibility of people losing their jobs, your heart just sinks. It should never get to that stage.
How do we ensure it doesn't get to that stage?
By permanently scanning, by permanently improving, by permanently,
networking,
let me give you one of my own little tricks. It's as soon as I get into any place, if you're ready to tell me if I've gotten to somewhere, started a new job by 9:00, and by 5 p.m. that same day you tell me, Sandra, no need to come back the next day. No end of contract and what have you. I'll leave with a smile, but I know I've got the mapping of your business model is here. So I treat every job as a paid university opportunity.
That's so good.
As a paid study opportunity.
That's so good.
You never stop learning on the job.
So good, yeah.
So when you get into any job space, you have an obligation to scan, to know where you are, and to know what the possible other routes are.
Yes, yes.
You have an
It takes a
obligation.
level of intentionality.
Intentionality, back to that word.
Yes.
You must be intentional. You never go somewhere and just sit like a bag of potatoes. You are doing yourself a disfavor.
OMG. You know this narrative
Yeah.
that, especially, I hear it a lot in our community, and I can
Yeah.
only speak for our community because I'm the community.
Yeah.
I just want a job. I just want a job. I just want a job. I think that narrative is so myopic,
Very.
right?
Extremely.
So myopic, and it's a narrative that will shape your tomorrow.
Yes.
Because words are
Absolutely.
powerful.
Words are powerful.
So if you just want a job, you're not thinking of it as you say, paid university. You're not thinking of it as there's a progression, there's a path.
There's a progression, there's a
right?
path. Absolutely.
All you want is, I just want the job. And then when you get the job, which is just an income, because if you just want a job, you just want money.
You just want money.
Right? But you forget that there's something that is so valuable and is very limited, which is time. And you're exchanging finite resource.
Yeah.
And you're exchanging that
for money,
which is so invaluable.
Absolutely. When people say they just want a job, for me, and the truth be told, how I flip it is every opportunity I look at, it's not even a job anymore. I've stopped looking at things like jobs. Don't notice what the word I used? Opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Every opportunity has to add to me in the future.
Yeah.
I am consultant level now, and the consultant is called a consultant because of the so many different intelligences and systems you bring to bear, and your experience, and the amount of times you failed and gotten up.
Yes.
I would not be called a consultant if I did not own my failures as much as I own my successes. And wore it like a banner, not as a shame belt, no. But as if you ever have anybody in front of you who's never made a mistake, be careful. You can't trust them.
Yeah,
you cannot trust them. I'll never forget a job I had many years ago with Capital Education Services in Bedford. Mark Windlaw was my boss then. Interview was going on, and he asked me a really weird question. He got some obfuscated term, and he asked me what that was at the interview. I had swatted for the interview, learned all I could do for the interview, but I just genuinely said to him at the interview, "I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I got the job because I refused to lie or refused to go round and round the village about the terminology I'd never heard about. That was why I got the job." So your truthfulness about your failings or your inabilities
or
will humanize you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work with a robot.
But even investors, they don't invest in organizations where the CEO or the visionary hasn't failed before.
There must be a track record.
Yes. I was listening to a podcast where the co-CEO or former co-CEO of founder of Netflix, Matt Redknapp, I think his name is, correct me if I'm wrong. He said that there were so many ideas they brought to the table. So many failed. Many didn't see the day of light, but Netflix was the one that made it through.
You see, all it takes is one success. When one breaks through, the amount of money and income and revenue and remuneration you will get from that one that worked will make up for all the others.
It's the consistency of keeping to the one,
right? Absolutely.
Yeah. But to your point, in terms of developing yourself, we should never stop developing ourselves.
Never undermine the place of development.
Never undermine it,
and never undermine the place of paid development as well,
because there's
only so much free YouTube videos can do for you.
Do you know, if you pay nothing, you get nothing out of it. If you pay little, you get little. If you pay a lot, you get a lot.
See it as an investment.
But that's the mental rewiring, though.
It's the mental rewiring. It's an investment. And what's wrong with investing in yourself? You see, a lot of us ladies don't have any problem with buying £5,000 bags and £10,000 bags and what of you. But we have a problem with paying £1,000 for good coaching. No. Rewire. Rewire. If you want to go up...
Is it our culture that hasn't helped us with that?
Our culture as well hasn't helped. Our culture. Because remember what happens when, back home, I say back home, back in Africa, back in Nigeria, where we come from, as a child, you get your report card, and oh, God help you if you were not first, second, or third, or in that realm, the person that got first position, have they got two heads? You remember that famous words from parents. So that wires us. That wires us to hate failing. That wires us to be perfectionists.
Yeah.
And this is all what triggers imposter syndrome. Equally, you may come from a home whereby your sibling was the gifted child or the
Yes.
star child that was
Yes.
always
Yes.
getting praised
Yes.
and
Yes.
extra things on the
Yeah.
side. But you, as this person who did not quite get to that realm, that's where it ferments and festers jealousy, hatred, sibling
I can
rivalry.
completely
A lot of
resonate with
adults
that.
have all
Yes.
these baggages
Yes.
in their background. So when
Yes.
when people appear at the workplace,
They're
God
preparing with.
help you if you're dealing with somebody who comes laden with such a background. And there you are, maybe you've come from a home whereby they praised you all the time, regardless of whether you were first, second, or 20th in class, where, oh, good job, Johnny. You had people praising you all the time. A lot of people go through, people are willing cooperators in that self-sabotage,
That's right.
because a lot of people work and want to hear the boss say, good
Well
job,
done.
Helen. Well done,
So,
Helen. What happens when your boss is not the well done, Helen type?
it's interesting you say
So
that.
you work and work and work and you
But you're
second
not
guess
getting
yourself,
it.
but you're good enough.
And you're not getting the recognition.
And you're not getting the recognition.
But that speaks to values.
Yeah.
Right? I have a friend who would say to me, she did this, and she's really, really good at her job,
Yeah.
but she wasn't recognized, or she wasn't recognized in the way she wanted to be recognized. It was years later I realized that recognition was one of her core values. Right?
Yeah.
So if that's one of your core values, that would manifest as imposter syndrome.
It would.
Because you're not getting that recognition.
You were permanently on alert to get the pat on the back.
Oh, wow.
And let's say the person, and equally, remember, people also a lot of people can be quite sadistic as well. God help you if God help that person with the imposter syndrome if the other party actually knows that they're also waiting for that praise. And so they keep it dangling like a carrot.
So they don't give it
They
to
keep
you.
it dangling like a carrot.
Terrible.
And
So
then the
don't
only
give it to
time you
me.
find out your value is the day you tender your resignation and you say, I'm leaving. And they're like, what? You can't leave. Then that's when you know your value.
Yeah, And
But by then it's too late. You should never
You should never come to that.
come to that.
Oh, wow.
You
Imposter syndrome. Honestly, you and I can talk like forever.
all day.
Forever. and we're out of time. However,
Yes.
what would you say
Yes.
to that person, to that woman of color
Mm.
that is good, has the experience or some experience, is developing themselves, they're doing the work, they're mentally rewiring themselves, doing all of this. What would you say to that woman that is struggling or dealing with imposter syndrome?
Okay. Number one, you are good enough.
You are good enough.
You are worthy.
You are worthy.
If you have to write it on the front page or back page or as your phone cover, so that every time you flip your phone open, you see that, do so. If you have to write it at the back of your door to be the last thing you see as you exit your door all the time, do so. If you have to get a pillowcase that writes it, I am worthy, do so. Begin to believe that you are good enough, you are worthy, that you are authorized and permitted to sit on the table.
Wow.
That woman of color, know that everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Knows that you were not any less because the mistake you made was perhaps more visible.
Yeah.
Other people have mistakes. They may not tell you about it, but trust me, everybody has something that they're not quite proud of.
Yeah.
Know that you are not alone as well. Everybody, male, female, white, black, tall, short, suffers from a dimension of being of that imposter syndrome.
Wow.
I'm a woman of faith, and I will also tell you this. Your belief, oh my God, if I tell the types of situations I've been in whereby if my faith had not built me to be an oak in the
Mm.
workplace.
Imposter
And
syndrome would have gotten the best
tech,
of you.
brutal.
Yeah.
And
Oh
these days,
wow.
I'm beginning to deal with more and more Eastern Europeans. I'm talking people who studied nuclear science in Russia, in Belarus, in Ukraine. They're all working in the tech departments.
Yeah.
I could have escaped them when I was working on business projects and
Yeah.
what have you. But when you're working in migration,
It's
working with this
really
type of
hard.
people
Yeah.
is in front of you.
Yeah.
And remember, these are people that don't know how to deal with black people.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So
You
the
know,
imposter syndrome
so
would
the
be real.
imposter syndrome, as in, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
Well, I'm program manager, and
So you have a right to be at the
I have
table.
a right to tell you you're not welcome to the table. That immediately gets them
I love
to
that.
obey.
I
They
love that.
cooperate.
I love
They
that.
cooperate when they know that. So
Excellent.
that woman of color, you have earned your place.
Mm-hmm.
Your education qualified you. As a woman of faith, I will tell you that God did not make a mistake putting you there as well. I will also tell you this, to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
I will also tell you this, not to think that it's a soul journey. You need networks, you need partnerships. There are people that can see sitting down what you cannot see
That's very
standing up.
true.
There are people that are very wise counselors whose realm are career strategies. So don't suffer in silence and don't suffer alone. Put the feelers out. Contact people such as Yanmo. She's a career strategist. She's good enough for me, good enough for several more of us high powered women that come to her for this great service and
Oh,
counsel and mentorship.
you are
That's
so
what I will
kind.
say to that woman of color.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
You are
much.
welcome.
Thank you.
You are so,
And
so
that's
welcome.
a wrap. That's a wrap.
Okay, I want to move that.